has certainly seen a business opportunity as well. Never like you to miss a business opportunity for us. Let's just pop it in here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. That's where the sponsorship money is coming from, by the way. Good afternoon, everyone. And by no means am I going to stand behind any kind of questioning about cyber in an expert witness scenario. I might barely get across answering some of your questions as long as they're non-technical. So my first getaway clause is I am not a cyber expert, nor am I going to conduct any kind of vulnerability audits. However, when I was speaking to Mike about this, we have been successful in getting into the cyber vulnerability audits part of it, simply because we have a good team in place. A friend of mine who just got off the hook from DP World has agreed to build this vertical, having the knowledge. You will see the slide of the team, and I'll tell you a little bit more. But the opening comments are, I am not a cyber guy. I am just a business operator. I'm just a surveyor like yourselves. So from that perspective, I'm going to tell you a non-technical aspect of it. If I'm able to make you all go home and make one change in your cyber hygiene that you all currently have, I'd be more than happy to have made a difference in your businesses. Now, my opening slide is of this lovely message that may or may not have been seen. I hope you'll have not seen it and you'll don't see it. But that is a kind of message which will pop up on your screen once your systems are locked up if you have a ransomware attack by somebody probably who has done a 2-day course in ethical hacking, understands how to get into your system or your phones, which I'm told reliably would be done anytime between now and by the end of the conference. So there will be a surprise to let you all know how easy and vulnerable each one of you all are, either your laptops or your phones are. But for somebody who's unemployed or is not having a avenue to earn money, could easily plant one of these, change a small, send you a small message, which you'll knowingly or unknowingly click, and you'll have your systems locked up, and they will start asking for a very, very small amount, and that will keep building up. There's no guarantee if you pay him $1,000, he's going to unlock it. He'll again come back and say, can I have 500 more, 1,000 more? Or probably he'll be rounded up in the next Interpol. But here's the message. This is a kind of message. This is just a sample. But that's who helps us as Constellation Money, and that's the guy I was speaking to you about, Pradeep Luthria. He is the knowledge process owner, and some of the slides he's helped me prepare. He's worked with DP World for 15 years, of which 11 years he has headed DP World's IT systems in 77 countries. And is a good friend of mine for 15 years, and he is responsible for the knowledge transfer. Fahad, Captain Wispy, Karthik, Venero, Rebecca are all part of Constellation's team. They are all on to cyber hacking courses, ethical hacking courses, having done vulnerability training, and Pradeep is adding value as the lead in carrying out these audits for us. And I've been sent here as a mouthpiece of what we think is required for an average surveyor or somebody who goes on board doing a potential claim which is relating to a cyber vulnerability. Earlier this year, BIMCO has revised their contracts, and I've put limitations of claims in every renewed or amended contract, indicating a cap on claims that a charterer or owner is liable to pay if it involves a cyber incident, which means everybody has to up the ante who are related to maritime business about their cyber hygiene, about the company's cyber hygiene, about the ship's cyber hygiene, about the behavior of each individual working in their organization. SIRES, the OCIMF, a new update, there is a questionnaire updated about the SIRES inspectors going on board and asking the vessels to demonstrate their action plan to avoid a potential cyber incident on board. If they're not able to answer that question, it comes in as an observation in the SIRE inspection. So it's all cooking up, and since last November, since we started looking at this as a business opportunity, we have only become more and more confident that this is something, given the auditing skills, given the risk assessment skills, given the loss prevention work, which we're doing anyways, has a lot of potential. With that, that used to be the threat landscape earlier, where the cyber criminals were looking at the sprouts of green if they found it in a very benign kind of a environment. But now it's lush green. For somebody who wants to just go home feeling lonely, he might just go and change a few digits on your website identification. It all started in November when we, Constellation Marine ourselves, had a DDoS attack. I don't know if many of you all have heard, but I'll explain to you what DDoS is. There's a string of alphanumerical, a string which identifies your website. So our domain name for our website is constellationms.com, and that had been hacked. So in other words, people are sending messages to A, B, and C at Constellation MS, and there was no constellationms.com being identified. So those mails were all going into cyber wilderness, into a black hole, some bouncing back, some were just lost in the web. And this took us 2 days to get back. And we still haven't found who did it. There was no answer we're asking. It was just, this is where it all started from. And we were told it could have been somebody just playing the mischief. But it had to be at server level. It had to be at somebody who had the hosting access. So that's where it all started. But it is all looking very, very, very lucrative and easy for people to make money out of each one's cyber vulnerability. Before I carry on, I'm going to speak no more than 15 minutes because I might be exposing myself if I do. So I'm going to hurry up through the slides. People are now the new parameter for vulnerability. It is a behavioral problem and not a systemic problem. Each individual's silliness or slackness or complacency usually comes down to becoming the reason for a cyber attack. You don't click, you shouldn't have clicked on that link. You shouldn't have left your router on all night, things like that. You should have changed your passwords very often. These are the kind of things. So if you have 2 or 3 people changing your organization, consider your organization vulnerable. If you buy a new laptop, you're vulnerable. If you don't upload your patches, you're vulnerable. So people, so the landscape right now is like probably Jeffrey when he started his sea career, or probably Paul, and they were going out to sea into tanks without testing gases, walking out on deck without helmets. This is exactly what an employee or a shipboard officer is actually doing. If I compare it to safety standards of the 50s, 20s, sorry, 50s, I think, 50s, yeah? But in 1950s, this is what it was. Probably people are now wearing boiler suits on deck. Exactly like that, an average employee today is not wearing enough or undertaking enough precautions. So that's the message. So it's a people thing. So in the past, if you saw who would be thinking it'll not happen to me. I don't have anything anybody would want. The Maersk incident that happened, 300 million that was lost, actually wasn't an attack targeted at Maersk at all. It was just somebody playing the fool, and the bug entered the MERS system, and there was a server that was down for maintenance, and they could recover 80% of it. Otherwise, it wasn't there. But today's millennium, I have an 18-year-old at home, and he would think that even to me, he would ask me before he gives away his password, or he lets me use his laptop or anything of that sort. He said, "Why do you want my laptop password?" Not because he's got something funny in it. Afterwards, after he gives me, I do try and see what was the reason behind the resistance. But it's just the mindset that he understands that people may use him or his computer, or through him, it might be somewhere where people can. So they will want to look at risk mitigation. It is due to the risk of infection of my machine, and where all I send an email to through my machine, they all are vulnerable because I've played the fool or I've been careless about my cyber hygiene. And that's principally where the problem is. And some of the times people do not realize. There was the Marriott case where, or the MasterCard case where MasterCard information of clients were being hacked for 5 years before they realized that there was information being taken away, and they were vulnerable. Exactly the same thing with Uber. So that was what we thought the I'd say 90s, when I was, you know, still a junior officer at sea. I would think that that is how a cyber criminal looks like, operating out of basement of his dad, and he's just a young dude trying to this. Or then you think that there's a mafia behind it, there are organized criminals. But really speaking, he could be just somebody who is, you know, a techie in between jobs, having time on hand, has already the knowledge, and he could just be messing about. So it could be just somebody who is amongst us today, or will be there tomorrow morning in your amongst y'all. So here's the real life scenario. We've seen a lot of potential of, and probably some videos going viral about cars being hacked by mischief mongers. There was an experiment done by Boeing to see if an aircraft system can be penetrated while midair. It was proven it is possible, and they have got a couple of cases where outside one of the European ports, a container vessel had her automation hacked, and she started revving funnily. Eventually, they had to cut off everything and anchor her in an emergency. So it is, there has been enough places where we have seen vulnerabilities on board ships and in supposedly more hack-proof environments of aircraft. So penetration is easy. You just have to find a way in. So talking about cars and aircrafts, here are all the target systems and equipments and technologies on board ships that are vulnerable to hacking. Voyage data, some of them. GPS, easily hackable. Power management, propulsion, surveillance system, CCTV. And this is just one slide. There's another one. So here's a guide. There's a guideline issued on cybersecurity on board, and you would probably be able to download this very, very easily. There is another slide with the cover page of it, and that's the second page of it. Cargo management system, your stability information, your gateways, security gateways, your passenger logs, your health records. There is a lot on board. Some of these are for passenger vessels as well. There are routers on board. You know, there is live satellite connection 24 hours. So, you know, all you need to know is how to get in on board, and you can then get into the power management system, the PMS system. There's a lot on board that has the potential of going cuckoo. And somebody saying, give me so much to get it right. Or I'm going to start diverting your ship. I'm going to flog your GPS system. It'll show the coordinates of where you're supposed to go, but actually she's going somewhere else. Nobody these days, some of them take star and sites on board, sun sites, but usually you would probably believe what your GPS is saying, and it is possible to actually hack your GPS signal telling you that it's going somewhere else. This is the document, easily downloadable, and very rarely have all these many organizations come together and agreed upon a common security on board guideline. In other words, look at the number of consensus, and each one of these are powerful organizations in their own, and this is an easily downloadable document. But point being that it is serious business out there. Now, how does this serious business affect us as surveyors? Guys, we are mostly, I don't know about y'all, but I would say 9 out of 10 reports that we send out are electronic reports. 9 out of 10 pieces of evidence that we collect, either photographic, video, audio, rarely handwritten notebooks. They are there, but there is along with that a lot of tangible evidence that is electronic. So everyone, as much as ships are, everyone is potentially vulnerable to a data breach or a data hack. And you're not going to be called back by that lawyer or that underwriter if you lose some of the critical evidence on board. The most important things out of a lot of things are your passwords. You can read what that is, and if you don't change them, they will not remain comfortable for too long. Passwords and underwears alike. Some of the new terminologies which are coming. You got hacktivism. So there is a proper lobby that tells you the difference between ethical hacking and unethical hacking, the dark web and the gray web. I don't think there's anything like a proper hacktivist. If he's a hacker, if he's ethical today, all he needs is society to do some justice to him and he might turn around. So cyber self-defense is what is recommended, and when we go there, I would say for the few audits that we've done since November, I'd say that the general common element that is coming is human negligence. People take cyber hygiene for granted. Oh, we've got an antivirus on board or in our computers. The company is supposed to look after the security or the cyber security. If the mail comes into his box and he's an accountant and somebody has to pay, he will be very inquisitive, or she will be very inquisitive to click on it and see what's inside it, to try and see if it's relevant. It might be a bug. So the next generation skills are to safeguard yourself. You think all the time on how you can be defending a cyber attack yourself. So no presentation is complete without numbers. So here's what it is. Risky cyber behavior and attacks on small businesses are the most, these are percentages, are the most in terms of causation of small businesses most vulnerable. Of the small businesses, the risky cyber behavior is coming as a front running. And these are not numbers from us; they are from a source called from the cyberspace. We haven't acknowledged it. Facts Adam collected. Adam is somebody who does research on it. Here's a risk management flowchart. Pradeep has been instrumental in contributing to this. This is part of the BIMCO document or the cyber guidelines document. But if you see this, how the risk management approach is to be taken, there are proper guidelines saying that IMO has come up with the guidelines for 2021. Every shipping company, every vessel is supposed to have a cyber management plan. It will form part of your ISM document. So it is clearly relating to safety. Yeah, once it becomes ISM compulsion, you have to follow it, and you got another year to do. So I'm not going to read through it, but to identify threats and identify vulnerabilities and to assess risk exposure is what cyber vulnerability audits are about. whoever we have talked to, underwriters, they would like us to do a cyber vulnerability audit, and then they would like to quote. Some of them like a loss prevention exercise. Some of them like to quote on a form-based form filled up by the client. They look at the risk, they ask or request the client if they would like to do a cyber vulnerability audit. They do it, and looking at how low the premium goes after the vulnerability findings are, adding to that our service fees, the comparative between a quote without an audit with an audit, it's much, much cheaper. And that's the selling point for us, and it's worked brilliantly. So the weakest link, sometimes the weakest link is as much as a new receptionist coming in. It's sometimes as much as the management sacking their information technology officer or changing the vendor who does their IT thing. And that's where the vulnerability creeps in. Coming to ransomware and cyber attacks, you can see the demographics from Executive Guide to NTT Security 2018. The global threat intelligence, the red dots are all which are potential threats. And this is a Middle East region. So we had zoomed in to see which vessels are there. Looking at what's happened last week in Middle East with tankers blowing up, I think comparatively, cyber threats are looking extremely, extremely possible. So that's ships. Now ports. Now looking at ports, cargo management system, billing information, logistics guys, delivery order, customs are linked to port systems. So, so Pradeep apparently says to us that it is not the shipping companies that are so vulnerable. Of course, the ports and terminals have had traditionally some security in place to a certain advanced level already. But looking at how fast the landscape is changing of the digital space and the new threats that are coming up, they'll never be able to keep up with it, apparently, with all the upgrades and things like that. So apparently, yeah, there's a mention about the Maersk incident. There's a mention about a couple of others. I'm not going to get into this, but there is enough written about each of these. If you want to take a picture, you can read all sorts of stories, but there is enough vulnerability for ports. So IMO has come up with a risk management which is consistent to the process, identifying, analyzing, and assessing risks. Now, this means that after the 2020 sulfur cap, the next big thing that the shipping companies are to start doing will be to put a proper cybersecurity plan in place, start training the people for cyber vulnerabilities. And in my view, it is going to only change and grow that fast. So I mentioned about some concern areas, the port, the marine side, that is the ships themselves, because every port or terminal, especially a container port terminal, comes up with a USB with a plan update, with so many containers shut down. They keep running around with USBs on board. And that's going to be assessed. The gates, the yards, warehouses, everything has today an electronic link, and everything is potentially vulnerable. Now, out of all the other concern areas, I've highlighted something that is in red, that is cryptojacking. I just picked one up, and cryptojacking is nothing else but people hacking into your computer to use its computing power. That's it. They want to mine data. They want huge computer processing powers. So in other words, if you're secretary or if you're doing some documentary work, I'm sure being a law firm, Ashwin, you'd probably be sending emails or writing drafts or using Word documents, etc. But if your computing power has suddenly gone slow, or one of your computers or 5 of your laptops in your machine, in your office have gone slow, chances are 80% of its computing power is hacked. And it'll continue to be hacked for somebody else to use for spurious reasons. Bitcoin mining. They want huge computing power. They want to churn numbers. So they just want your computing power. It's directed towards a certain hub, and they're just using it. So in other words, if they strike gold and they're able to hack into a big encrypting passcode, it'll be your machine that will have gone through. Media's got a lot of that. One more slide. After that, I will let people throw questions at me, but there is enough written about a lot of cyber attacks. Costco, there's ports and terminals. These are very latest, I say 6 months old, and there are growing numbers in the web space if you want to read more. So actions. Most ports in most countries are government run or having semi-government association. So it could be somebody from your government who may probably be responsible for being slack, not passing budgets, not being able to give enough into the thing. So there is a Port Security Act in the Netherlands. They say there is a security certificate that has to be mandatorily come into force for reporting cyber incidents. So governments have made it compulsory, even a small incident, like you have near misses in your day-to-day shipborne thing, and those are indications where we can have a starting on some way to protect. Sharing of cyber incidents via platform is also something that is being done. North Sea Channel area and others are bringing the community together to benefit from shared intelligence. So, in other words, the way a hacker in US operates versus the way probably a new IT graduate in India operates, and for reasons each of them operate completely different. One might just operate for fun, for bragging rights, and say that, all right, let me see if I can hack into some system. I'm anonymous, I'm using a VPN, so let me see if I can get into John Noble's computer, probably from Dubai, and see if I can surprise him. One of the things that we have a disclaimer, and those reluctant clients who think and challenge us, saying, oh, our systems are safe. So we give them a form, fill it up. We'll see you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll tell you the color of your shirt and your tie. I will surprise you on your screen. If they sign that form, most certainly we can penetrate into the systems. We don't need any password. We don't need nothing. We just want the computer to be on and connected to the Wi-Fi. We will find a way in. We means those who can. I can't. I'm just saying. So here's something that we do. We ask some very, very basic questions. There are some stats here, and 95% of cybersecurity breaches are due to lack of awareness and human errors. That's the point I'm drilling in, because each one of us is today vulnerable. We all come into including myself, comes into the 95% category. And this is something that we have, you can see the color of the logo gone red to alert, and they call it cyber surveys. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. And cyber awareness is as important as safety awareness is the message. Thank you very much.